anticipation of Saw 10 coming out later this month, I want to play a game.
No, but seriously, I thought it would be really cool if I go over 10 things I really like about the Saw franchise while we're all getting ready for the 10th movie. In this notebook in front of me, I've got 10 things that I really, really enjoy about the Saw franchise 1 through 9. Yes, I am including Spiral. And in no particular order, I thought it would be pretty cool to just go over the positives of a franchise that's beloved by many a horror freak and one that might have a few more bad things than good. But we all love the blood and gore, so why focus on the negative, and let's just talk about the cool things. Number 1, Tobin Bell as John Kramer. Kramer's philosophy is legitimately the entire foundation for this whole franchise, which feels odd considering that Kramer is a character that dies at the end of Saw 3. And while in those first 3 movies, he still felt like a secondary character simply due to the fact that the movies were so focused on the people in the traps. It's a shame that in the movies past that, they couldn't really figure out how to keep him in the spotlight as much as the 3 films did. There were a lot of flashbacks and scenes that explained the lore of John Kramer, and we'll get into that in a later point. However, it just didn't feel quite as powerful. Now that being said, I know I said we're going to talk about the positive things. And the inclusion of John Kramer in these later films, however little it may be, is the positive. Even in later films when interest was sort of waning a little bit, every time Tobin Bell popped up on screen, the viewer, myself included, would perk up. They would listen. His presence in these films is so captivating, and I'm actually very excited that Saw 10 is going to focus on just John Kramer between the events of Saw 1 and 2. Number 2, Samuel L. Jackson in Spiral. Spiral is a Saw movie that was supposed to have a little bit of a comedic spin on it, and while the main character's jokes sort of fell flat for me and my friends when we were watching it at the drive-in, Sam Jackson's jokes hit every time, and most of the time they weren't even jokes. Sam Jackson is just a phenomenal actor. It's great to see him in a movie that takes place in the Saw universe. I mean, you could have given me 100 years, I never would have guessed that Sam Jackson would be in a Saw movie. Nonetheless, it's really just entertaining to hear him say lines like, "You want to play games, mother?" Alright, I'll play. Number 3, the score. The score in the first Saw movie, especially at the end, the song titled Hello Zepp, composed by Charlie Clouser, who, if I'm not mistaken, is formerly of Nine Inch Nails, ties that scene in together perfectly. There's something about that song that makes every decision and event that happens within that runtime feel so important, like the weight of the world was on the shoulders of the person making that choice. Furthermore, simply because that song is so iconic and tied to this franchise, it makes the end scenes where the Saw twists come in that much more memorable. Number 4, the ending of Saw. Now we're gonna get a little specific here, but this next one is the ending of Saw from 2004. Aside from the flashbacks that sort of fill in the gaps of the story, the majority of this movie takes place in the bathroom between Adam and Dr. Gordon. Let's not even talk about the plot of the movie. Let's not even talk about what happens in that bathroom. But from the moment that the lights turn on in that room, there is a bloodied corpse lying in the middle of the floor. I remember when I watched it the first time, my brain immediately clicked to, yep, that's a dead guy. Didn't give it a second thought. When John Kramer stepped up in the middle of that bathroom, my jaw dropped. It was clear on the floor. That scene, let me tell you, is in the Horror Hall of Fame, and in this entire franchise has never been topped. And when you pair that with point number 3, the inclusion of the song Hello Zepp, my God, that's a scene that I could just look up on YouTube all day. I don't even have to watch the rest of that movie. I just want to see John Kramer get up and say, "The key to that chain is in the bathtub," and then go over to the door and go, "Game over." Masterclass scene. Masterclass. Number 5, the amount of people that John Kramer rehabilitated. Now, I'm using the term rehabilitated very lightly here because it's the kind of rehabilitated that John Kramer would understand, not the kind that you and I, 2 sane horror freaks, would understand. Sure, 99% of the people that are stuck in jigsaw traps, regardless of who made them, come out resenting John Kramer and what he did to them. But there is that 1% that sticks with him. In my list, I have Amanda, Detective Hoffman, Dr. Gordon, and Mortician Logan. Those are 4 people that are dedicated in some capacity or another to carrying on the legacy of Jigsaw. And what makes it even cooler to see them rehabilitated is that throughout the movies, or at least some of the movies, you don't know that they're part of Jigsaw's cult. It's only revealed at some point in 2 that Amanda is a part of it. It's only revealed in 4, don't hold me to that Detective Hoffman is a part of it. And for God's sake, we don't know that Dr. Gordon is a Jigsaw protege until the ending of Saw the Final Chapter. That's 7 movies! And then there's Logan, who we find out at the end of his own movie, but I kind of enjoyed Jigsaw, so props to them for that one. In a sort of franchise that could have just kept John Kramer as the single villain, and having nobody listen to him and have nobody take his ideals to heart, it feels sort of exciting to know that anybody could be a part of the problem. To know that you can't trust anybody that you see on screen. The way that this franchise has sort of branched all of these characters in and brought them together to be a part of this one larger goal, from a character that dies in the 3rd movie, I think is super well done, and it maintains the mystery throughout the entire franchise. Number 6, Leigh Whannell as Adam. So this is sort of like point number 2 with Sam Jackson and Spiral. It's a little bit of a smaller point, but I just really respect Leigh Whannell's mind for horror, and to see him as an actor in Saw, as well as somebody that worked on writing the screenplay and worked behind the scenes on many other Saw installments, including the Saw video game, it's really awesome to see him there and to see him so invested in the success of this thing that he built from the ground up with James Wan. Number 7, Flashbacks. The flashbacks sort of feel like a requirement if we're doing a mystery plot. There needs to be things that key in the audience to certain plot points throughout the movie so that they don't feel disinterested for not knowing something that they couldn't have figured out anyway. In something like the first Saw movie, these flashbacks take you back to hospitals and doctors' offices to make you think that you can figure out who the villain is, when in reality, the movie just doesn't want you to know yet. In later installments, such as 4 through Jigsaw, these flashbacks either add to the mystery of the movie, like in Jigsaw when the game happened 10 years prior to the events of the film, or something as simple as showing how John Kramer met the person that's in the trap. It's a way to progress the plot of the film while also making it more complex, but at the same time, finding ways to include the franchise's backbone in John Kramer in the films after his death. Number 8, the lighting. If you've watched any of the Saw movies without looking away from the screen too much, then you know that a lot of them are sort of acid tones for colors. I know that's not really the best way to describe it, but think of like the grimy yellow color or the really deeply muted blue colors when they're in warehouses or the bathroom. It's a way that this movie grounds itself in the disgusting corners of reality and makes the viewer feel grimy just like the characters. It's a small detail that's easily overlooked, but something that, similar to Hello Zep, I think helps define this franchise. Number 9, playing in the Gideon meat plant in Dead by Daylight. I know this isn't quite about the movies, but if you know anything about me, you know that I spend an ungodly amount of hours playing Dead by Daylight. And when you load into a map such as the game, you think, oh my god, 2 floors, loads of pallets, what am I going to do about this? But then you start playing it, and you find tons of Easter eggs from the Saw movies. So, go into the bathroom, for example, and you find Adam's body chained to the wall right next to Detective Hoffman's. You see Dr. Gordon's foot in the opposite corner of the room. You can see the freezer room where the lady was frozen to death in Saw 3, as well as the CCTV room that Amanda uses to watch Jeff in the events of Saw 3, as well as smaller little details like Billy the puppet on the pig's saw traps, reverse bear traps that the pig puts on people's head, playing as Detective Tapp, playing as the pig, or the timers that take up space on every single hook. They're just cosmetic, but new players don't know that, so it's fun to freak them out. And if I missed any Easter eggs, let me know in the comments. And if you know how to work around that god pallet outside the bathroom next to the basement, let me know, because as a killer main, I'm really struggling. Number 10, ingenuity of the traps. You really didn't think I could let you watch a video about the Saw franchise without talking about the traps, right? The iconic traps or games in the first movie are pretty simple. Reverse bear traps, crawling through barbed wire, chained to a bathroom. But the Saw movie kind of takes itself like a slasher. Think of Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. Every time a new movie comes out, it tries to one-up the best kill in the last one. So, Saw, when a new movie comes out, it tries to think of a trap that's even more brutal and disgusting as the most brutal and disgusting trap from the last movie. And let me tell you, it works. I remember cringing unbelievably at the scene in Saw 2 where Amanda gets thrown into the pit in the floor full of needles. In Saw 3, the trap that I think is called the twist, where the guy's limbs get twisted, oh, that's disgusting. And in Saw, I think 5, when Agent Strom gets crushed between the walls, it's so basic, but it's so gross. Or when the people have to stick their hands into the saw blades to get the blood in the jar, and it opens the door. It's disgusting. I think it's pretty obvious that the Saw movies always try and lean towards the opinions of the horror fans that are obsessed with gore. But I think in the writer's room, when they're coming up with these traps, they're always trying to figure out what they can do to make the most steel-stomached of a viewer look away from the screen. And above all else, what has to be admired about these Saw movies is that regardless of their quality, regardless of their storytelling prowess or lack thereof, they never sacrifice the gnarly brutality of their traps. And with those 10 points being said, I am stoked to see another movie with Tobin Bell as John Kramer in the Saw franchise. This time I get to witness this in theaters, as Spiral I had to watch in the drive-in. Thank you very much, 2020. But nonetheless, keep an eye out on this channel for a review video of Saw 10 after it comes out, and I'll be sure to share all of my disgustingly honest thoughts about it. Catch you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.